giving it up for Debbie and Jeff for this whole REVTalks program. The last 2 days have really been great, and I always know anytime that I'm involved with anything that Pedowitz puts on, I'm going to encounter marketers that are really like-minded, people that just get it, that don't focus on the surfacey stuff, but instead really understand the meat of revenue marketing. So thank you for putting together some great programming. So I'm Noreen. I'm with Bandwidth. Bandwidth is a software company that works with companies that want to add voice or messaging into their application. So companies like Google and Microsoft and a lot of the apps on your phone that have calling capability or texting capability are likely using Bandwidth. So before Bandwidth, I was with 4 other tech companies over the last 20-ish years. I'm finding as I'm getting older, I used to always say, more than 10 years, more than 15 years, and now it's, I don't want to get too specific about the years. So anyway, so Bandwidth's one of 5, and 4 of those 5 companies went public. They all raised a bunch of money, and it was VC money, it was private equity money. They did mergers and acquisitions, couples sold, so there was a lot of exciting stuff happening. So 4 out of the 5 tech companies that I worked for went public. Is that a coincidence? Is it good luck? No, they all had really strong marketing leaders. That's supposed to be a joke. You can laugh at that. Not really a joke, but yeah. So I'm going to walk you through the process that I go through before I pick a company, and then how I view my role within the company and some of the things that I've done over the years. So first, I'm really careful about the companies that I join. I'm not looking for just the next job. I'm looking for the next big thing. I want to make sure that there's really strong product market fit before I join a company. So I'm going to spend a lot of time looking at what industry are they in? What are the fundamentals of that industry? Is it growing? Is this company truly differentiated? So I'm paying attention to that. The next thing is I'm really looking at, is this something I can be passionate about? We're all sales and marketing folks in the room, and to do the job that we have to do, we've got to have fire in our belly. We've got to be excited about what we're doing. You can't fake that. So I have to make sure, is this something I can get excited about each day? The next thing I'm looking at is the CEO. I need to make sure the CEO is someone that I want to go to battle with. Is this someone that I believe in, that I trust, that I like? That's a really important element here too. And then I'm going to take a look at the business fundamentals and really look at, what is the health of the business? You have to make sure, looking at the numbers, you want to make sure the cap table's not upside down. You want to make sure the company's not going to run out of money in a month. Looking at those fundamentals is really, really important as well. And I'll tell you that I'm not scared off if the fundamentals aren't perfect. In fact, I've joined companies before where I felt like product market fit is great, it's a great industry, but maybe the sales and marketing engine is terrible and is in really bad shape. I look at something like that and think, I can go in there and have a huge impact. So sometimes that makes it more attractive to me, but you've got to look at that. So those are the steps that I go through to just make sure I'm joining a good company. Then in terms of just my take on marketing, I view my role in marketing as both demand gen and brand. A lot of folks put themselves in one camp or the other. I was actually happy to hear yesterday in the REVTalks session a lot of the other speakers, Evelyn was one, and a couple of others, talking about the need to be both brand and demand gen, particularly if you want to take your company to the next level and raise money and potentially go public, you have got to be focused on brand and demand gen. And as a marketing leader, if you want to advance through the ranks and really be a strong marketing leader, you've got to be focused on both. You've got to be good at both. If you're not good at both today, figure out which is your real strength, surround yourself with some folks that are really good, and learn from them. Okay, cool, so that's my process that I get into. So I've broken down kind of my approach to scaling the business into 2 categories. And again, this is really focused on if you want to scale that business, be attractive to investors, be on the path to taking your company public. Okay, so first is you've got to connect your business to a growing market. So if you want to be attractive to investors, everybody knows investors want to see lots of up and to the right charts where you're showing all this amazing growth for your business. You've got to do your research on the front end and get supporting data to show how big the market is. You want to show the product market fit. How does your business intersect with the market, and what are the growth opportunities? If you're entering a crowded market where maybe there's lots and lots of other vendors, it's okay as long as your solution is differentiated. You're not going to get anywhere with a Me Too strategy. It's okay to be a follower. You know, Bandwidth followed a company that's done incredibly well, and it's made it easier for us to say, hey, you know Twilio? We're just like Twilio. Here's how we're different. So it makes it easier. So don't worry about that, but you've got to be differentiated. And by the way, you know, connecting yourself to a growing market is not only important for investors and bankers, it's important to really every audience you're going after. Potential employees, they want to know you're part of a big growing market. Partners, customers, really everybody. If you want to attract attention, you have to make sure you're connected to that growing market. Okay, so you've figured out the market. Now you've got to tell the story. Now you've got to get out and get people excited about your business. The key thing here, and I think this is an area where a lot of folks fall down, is you've got to keep it simple. We are marketing to people. And whether it's an investor, an analyst, a technical buyer, whoever it is, they're people. And it's very likely they're not going to understand your jargon, your industry jargon. I've had this experience many times, I'm sure lots of you have too, where I'm checking out a company, and you know, it might be a company that has a lot of buzz, and I go check out their website to try to figure out exactly what they do. So I look at the homepage, and I'm like, oh, okay, can't really tell what they do. This could be a variety of things. Then I look at the About Us section, then I'm in the product section, then I'm finally having to go to a press release boilerplate to try to see, is there simple enough language here that can actually explain what they do? If people don't understand what you do, they can't get excited about your business. So I look at really trying to break it down into simple terms. And I'll share a story with you from Bandwidth. So several years ago, we did a brand refresh, new logo, new messaging, had all our fancy brand stuff out there. And on our homepage, we had this image, this fun image with all the icons and look very software-y. And it said, a more connected world built here. Just one line with a cool image behind it. And it looked cool, like it was this very cool software-y looking thing and sexy line, whatever, but it was so unclear. A more connected world built here, what do we do? Are we a railroad company? Like, what are we? It was not clear. And so we quickly moved away from that and introduced something that was very, very simple and very clear. And I'd say to everybody that clarity has to trump clever, it has to trump sexy language and all of those things. There is a time and place for that, but you have to make sure your audience understands your message first. I look at everyone I'm meeting with, no matter who it is. If it's a person in the community, if it's a potential employee, a customer, potential customer, whoever it is, I look at everybody as a potential evangelist for my brand. So when I'm talking to an analyst, for example, like a research analyst or someone on the financial side, I always take a minute to walk them through. I give them the high-level bandwidth, but then I try to break it down into terms they can really relate to and understand. So I'll say, you may not have heard of Bandwidth. We're a software company, but you're likely using Bandwidth where you live, work, and play every day. So you go to the office and you make a call using RingCentral or Dialpad. That's Bandwidth. You're using conference services from WebEx or Zoom. That's Bandwidth. You're on your way home. You're arranging dog-sitting service through Rover. That's Bandwidth. Restaurant reservations, Bandwidth. You go home and your connected speaker can make calls thanks to Bandwidth. I do that so that, one, they really get it. They understand what we do. But two, if it's an investor or someone from that community, I want them looking out in their daily life and thinking, Bandwidth could plug in there. Bandwidth could do this and that. And that makes that growth curve, that addressable market line, go up and up and up in their head. So it's important to make sure you break down your business, no matter what it is, into terms people can understand. And don't forget about people outside of that community. I was in the grocery store the other day wearing a Bandwidth shirt, and the cashier, young guy, early 20s, is like, what's Bandwidth? I started telling him about what we do, and it became clear this is a sharp guy. So I pivot the conversation quickly to trying to recruit him as an SDR. But the point is just that, you've got people out there that, you guys listening to me today, you leave this conference and say, oh, I saw this awesome speaker from a company called Bandwidth, and you go to the next conference and you're talking about what you heard about my brand. So keep that in mind. That piece is key. The second piece that is just as important, and I'll just say one very quickly on that last point, you want to think about your audience as you're getting out there and trying to influence, particularly the investors and folks like that. If you're in tech and you're not working with the research analyst community, and by research analysts I mean the Gartners, IDCs, Forresters of the world, you need to start working with them. They are incredibly influential in the world of tech. They really set the pace for who are the vendors, what's the growth of the category. So if you want to take your company public, start paying attention to what analysts the banks are focused on. Are they listening to Gartner? Are they listening to IDC? Maybe there's a niche analyst for your segment that the banks tend to follow. You need to get in front of those analysts, educate them about your story, and ensure that they understand your positioning. Because what they publish and what they say is directly going to impact all of those investors, all of those bankers, everyone you want to get in front of. You've got to take a strategic approach to hitting these folks too. Unless you have a massive budget, you don't want to go to every trade show. You want to go to the shows that are important and go big and make sure you're in front of those folks. So the second really big thing that is important for this process, and it's just as big, you got to connect to the growing market. The second thing is you have to build and refine the revenue engine. Marketing must have financial accountability. Dr. Debbie talked about it this morning. I was shocked to hear that only a third of marketers actually report on financial metrics. And I knew it was bad in the past, but I thought we had made progress. I was really surprised to see this. If you guys want to be taken seriously as a marketer, you must speak in financial terms. You must take responsibility for the metrics. All of the vanity metrics that are out there, opens, clicks, all of those things, even leads, they're meaningless. Don't pay attention to them. You've got to be focused on things like customer acquisition cost, CAC, which is essentially just your total marketing spend over new customers added in that same period. Things like public software companies measure things like sales and marketing efficiency ratio, which is looking at the total sales and marketing fully loaded expense against the increase in revenue in that period. Things like CAC payback period, CAC over LTV. If you're talking to a venture capital firm, the VCs know these numbers better than anybody. And what they're investing is this a company that's connected to a hot growing industry, number one? And does this company have a strong revenue engine? They want to understand, if I pour money into this thing, what's going to come out on the back end? And when is it going to come out? So you guys have to have mastery of this stuff if you do not already. So I'm going to just roll you through really quickly. And for some, this is very basic and refresher. But if everybody's not reporting on this stuff, it may not be. So, just your typical basic funnel of, okay, and this can look many different ways, many stages, of course. But from lead down to new customer, and you track your conversion rates through that to understand based on historic performance, okay, what do the conversion rates look like? Well, then if you say, okay, cool, I've got this new business, Awesome Sauce software. I want to add 100 new customers this year. And you think about what do 100 new customers represent to your business? Well, what do we need to do as marketers? What kind of program do we need to put in place? What kind of budget do we need to deliver 100 new customers? So you start at the bottom. Okay, 100 new customers, and if an SQL converts at 15%, that means I need 670 SQLs, 1340 MQLs, 28,800 leads. That means for every single new customer, I need 286 new leads, 268 new leads for every new customer. And whether you're using leads or you start with opportunities at the top, it really doesn't matter. It's the same type of formula, it's the same type of math. But this is what you need to be focused on and what you need to be thinking about. You need to look at this funnel and think about, what are those conversion rates at every stage of the funnel? If they're off, what can I do to fine tune at every stage? I'm always asking my team, I'm quoting the Bare Naked Ladies song all the time, and I'm like a broken record with it. If I had $1 million, if I gave you $1 million tomorrow, where would you invest it? And what kind of return would we get, and when? We've got to know this stuff. This is what investors are looking for. Hot market and hot revenue marketing engine. The other thing I'd tell you is that our job as marketers does not end once that new customer's on board. At Bandwidth, we kick it into high gear once a customer comes on board. We know that another important metric for software companies is DBNER, dollar-based net retention rate. And that's essentially the growth of your existing customers, where there's also huge opportunity for your business. So as soon as a new customer comes on board, we're kicking into gear, a big, fun launch experience for them. You know, we're doing things, sending them a big surprise and delight package in the mail to get them kicked off. If they're big, maybe we send an ice cream truck to their office to really kick it off on the right foot. Then we're working with our CSAs and CDMs on upsell and cross-sell and all those different opportunities. You can do the same. Every single person in your organization is someone that can impact growth and creating deeper and stronger relationships. They are also people that could kill a relationship. Somebody in billing calls one of your customers and says the wrong thing, or someone does the wrong thing in another department, maybe your TAC department, your CSA department, your recruiting department, whoever it is, they could really have a negative effect on that customer relationship. So in marketing, we're in this really key position of being able to get into the entire organization and focus on that brand experience, that customer experience, to ensure that everyone has that, we call it CEO mentality, and thinks about no matter what their role, they're playing a big part in the success of the company. So what I'd say to everybody is we are in a tremendous position of influence in our organizations in marketing. And you know, I've talked to folks here that say they're waiting to go public, they're waiting for their companies to get funding. Don't just sit around and wait, make it happen. We all have the ability to do that within our organizations if we really embrace the role. Thank you.